Welcome to Peiwen's Note. Today we have the world-famous violinist Karen Gomyo with us. Hello, Karen. Welcome back to Taipei, Taiwan again.
Thank you so much.
I heard you perform beautiful Mendelssohn concerto last year.
Oh, thank you.
It really touched my heart.
Thank you so much.
Who did you perform with?
It was with the Taiwan Philharmonic and Maestro June Merkel. And actually that's why I'm here again this week. We performed together with the same group, same conductor, different piece. Now it's Mozart Violin Concerto No. 3.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear you play the Mozart Concerto.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. And I understand you begin to play violin at the age of 5,
yes.
Right? And by this time you were living in Montreal, and your mom take you to karate class, ballet, and violin.
Yes.
And tell me, what is it like, and do you have a favorite one of these? Which one is your favorite?
I think the violin was always my favorite, and karate and ballet was, many girls like ballet and pretty costumes, and karate was together with a friend. So but now I'm learning Argentine tango and a little bit of kung fu. So karate is now kung fu, and ballet is now tango.
But it's good.
Yes.
Kung fu, yeah, I would like to take it sometimes. And then you were just 10 years old. You entered Juilliard School and to study with the world famous violin professor Dorothy Delay.
Yes.
You must be a genius. Tell us what it's like to study with her and
yes,
to enter so early.
Well, Miss Delay had a very interesting background. She had studied child psychology, and so I think she had a very special gift in connecting with young people. And from my experience, because I'm sure not everybody's experience is the same, but from my experience arriving to New York as a 10-year-old from a very laid-back place like Montreal was quite a culture shock. And also I grew up speaking French, and I suddenly had to learn English. So that switch of environment and switch of culture was very difficult for me. So I became very shy. And Miss Delay was amazing at understanding this. And so the way she taught me was with the understanding of what I was going through. So of course she taught me about the violin, and she had a certain system, a sheet where she talked about how to practice. So 1 hour etudes, 1 hour Bach, 1 hour, this kind of thing. But I think she was more interested in developing the personality of the student. And so looking back, I feel like she really nurtured this. She really tried to nurture this in me. And I think that really sets her apart from somebody who only concentrates on the violin. I think she was more open-minded. She understood that the person behind the violin had to be happy and healthy and able to think for themselves and show their voice and their unique personality.
So sounds like she's a very caring professor.
Yes.
And you were only just 15 years old when you won the Young Concert Artist.
Yes.
And your career take off right from there. And would you like to tell us about this competition?
So the Young Concert Artists International Audition is, it's structured a little bit like an international competition in the sense that there are 3 rounds. But the difference is that instead of winning a prize, first prize, second prize, third prize, you win management. So that means that the organization looks after you for at least 3 years, and they introduce you to what it means to be a concert performer. So in my case, I had just turned 15, and so for me this was also for my personality, I think this was a wonderful way to start very gently. So it wasn't like, suddenly Carnegie Hall. No, it was, step by step. And the president at the time, Susan Wadsworth, was very motherly, and she also talked about how to do your hair, what kind of dress to wear, how to speak with the audience, things like this. So they were really kind of guiding you. And my first concert through them, I remember, was in a barn. So it was in a barn in upstate New York, owned by a couple, and they had a concert series, and you know, so it was really step by step. And for me, this felt right. I don't think I would have been psychologically ready for a big overnight thing, if you know what I mean.
Because at 15, you're still a child, right?
Absolutely,
but
absolutely.
To have this lady called Susan, and she's also very caring.
Yes, and the organization was absolutely in support of me continuing to go to school. As was Miss Delay, you know, she also said it's very important for you to continue to go to school. I think, yeah, they both understood that being in a, let's say, normal environment, doing normal things at that age was very important for the development of the person.
Yeah. And 2014, you have made this documentary film about the Stradivarius.
Yes.
And the Japan NHK production.
Yes.
It was pretty amazing documentary. And
did you watch it?
Tell us about it.
Yes. Oh, this was such an amazing experience. The filming itself happened over many months. You know, there was a lot of planning from the NHK side. Because they wanted to visit as many different types of people as possible, meaning current violin makers or people in charge of the Cremona Museum, or you know, visiting the forest where Stradivarius supposedly got the wood that he used. And we even went to a neurology center. Was it a neurology center? Where in a machine they scanned the violin so that they could get these images to really have a detailed look at the structure of the instrument and all the fine details, like the thickness of the wood, the exact arching of the wood, things like this. So it was really amazing for me to be able to experience this together with the filming team. And of course, at the end of the day, the documentary was, 55 minutes or something, so they had so much interesting footage which they had to, in a very clever way, put together in a short amount of time. Yeah, what an extraordinary experience.
It's wonderful. And besides the classical concerto, you also performed quite a lot of the modern pieces. And what was it? Samuel Adams also wrote a concerto for you, and this was commissioned by Chicago Symphony Orchestra.
Yes.
Tell us about this. When was the premiere? And
yes. So Samuel was he was composer in residence with the Chicago Symphony for, I think, 3 years during the period of, I think, 2016 to 2018, something like this. And during that time, he wanted to write a violin concerto, but for not a full orchestra, but a smaller group. But it was called Chamber Concerto. Still, you know, very substantial, 5 movements, very interesting instrumentation, and. At that time, I didn't know Sam so well. We are good friends now, but at the time we didn't know each other so well. But so I remember we sat down like this, and we talked about what inspires us, what music we like. He also heard me play once, which is why he asked me if I would play his violin concerto premiere. And so he had specific ideas about what he wanted to write for himself, but also with me in mind. And so we had this kind of discussion. But now we're actually talking about him writing a violin concerto for me with full orchestra. And we were saying how special that this is, because him writing this piece became a friendship, and now this friendship will become music again. So I think it's very special. Yes, I think it's very special to have this kind of relationship interaction with a living composer,
and the music become better.
Exactly, and you really
audience
exactly.
be happier, right?
Yeah, and you really know each other. I really know his language now. He really knows my language, and
you know what he wants.
Exactly.
And he expresses it
yeah.
through the instrument.
So it's very special. Yeah.
Wow, and that's quite amazing. You perform with Piazzolla as a longtime pianist.
Oh,
what's his name?
Pablo Ziegler.
Yeah.
Yes,
how
yes.
did it happen?
Gosh.
Is there a story behind this?
Yeah, I met Pablo, oh my goodness, over 10 years ago now, by accident, in a chamber music festival in New York, where I had been going for many years, and normally they programmed pretty standard chamber music concerts. But one time they said, we would like to program a tango program. And I said, great. And I was so excited, I didn't even look at what other colleagues were coming, so I didn't know who was.
Surprise!
Yeah, it was enough for me to say tango, and yes, I will be there. So in the first rehearsal, it's a fairly large group, maybe 8 people or so, and we're all warming up. The pianist is still not there, so just warming up. And then 10 minutes later, the door opens, and the pianist walks through, and I look, and I realized it's Pablo Ziegler. And by the way, I mean, of course, nowadays, if I'm asked to do a concert, I look at who am I playing with, what are the pieces. Yeah, but at the time, I thought, oh, tango, great, I'll be there. So, I recognized him from all the videos that I had watched of Piazzolla himself playing with his quintet, and this was Pablo Ziegler, and he was walking in front of me. So this is the first time this is how I met him, and we immediately connected and said, oh, we should do some projects together again, and so this was the beginning.
And a few years ago, this is 2021, you record this beautiful, beautiful album, the music by Piazzolla, called Piazzolla Trilogy.
Yes.
I watch it on the YouTube over and over, and I love the way you play.
Oh, thank you.
And tell us about this beautiful recording.
Yes, so originally my wish was to record together with the tango quintet based in New York, which would have included Pablo Ziegler and several other New York-based tango musicians with whom I've performed in the past. But this really was during the first lockdown, during the pandemic, and I was in Berlin, and they were all in New York, and there was just no way of getting to each other because of the various lockdowns, and beyond that also not every studio was open, and there were many complications. So the record label said, well, we would still like for you to record Piazzolla's music, because it was his the 2021 was Piazzolla's 100th anniversary.
I see.
Yes, so this was why it was really important that we really aimed towards the release during that year. And so we completely changed the program and ended up with what the trilogy is now. It's in 3 parts, and so there's the 4 seasons of Buenos Aires, arranged for string orchestra and solo violin. This is together with the ONPL, the Orchestre National de Pays de la Loire down in France. And we had that, but then we needed more music on the recording. And so driving back from France up to Berlin, I was watching many different artists on YouTube, and I came across this remarkable guitar player with short blonde hair named Stephanie Jones, and she was playing Piazzolla's music on solo guitar, but in a way that felt like she was Latina. So I looked her up. And
what's her nationality?
Well, it turns out she's Australian, but living in Munich, or near Munich.
Your city.
So I said, well, would you be willing to come to Berlin to record with me the history of tango? And she said yes. So she drove up from Munich, and we recorded in Berlin. And then we still needed a 3rd part, and I decided to record the three out of six tango etudes that Piazzolla wrote for flute.
Oh.
But they're equally lovely on the violin. So this is how that CD came about.
And growing up, I wonder, do you have a musical hero?
Oh yes, many musical heroes. My goodness. I mean, of course, as a violinist, maybe I first talk about my violin heroes. David Oistrakh and Nathan Milstein, and many others. But those two have somehow remained so important in my life since I was a child, but even now. And I can talk very briefly about why. David Oistrakh for me is somebody who plays with such a pureness of heart. And so there is a recording of encore pieces that he plays together, not together, that he plays. I think it's on the EMI label, but it's part of this box set. Maybe you can look it up later, but I'm sure it's been re-released anyway in some other ways. But this is, for me, just a recording that always made my heart feel so much. Just so beautiful, simple, and really coming from the heart. And this is what I've always loved about his playing, that there's something so sincere. And then the other violinist, Nathan Milstein, is in a way very different from Oistrakh. He's a little bit mischievous, and he's always kind of reinventing himself. So there are many recordings of, let's say, Beethoven concerto that Milstein plays as a soloist, but every one is distinctly different. And this has always been so inspiring for me, because it's not that he's trying to be different, but he is genuinely transforming himself every time, and he just has such a curious mind, and his perspective of the music just changes. So he has this kind of childlike curiosity with which he approaches music. I mean, childlike, but also very, very serious. And the result is that the interpretation is changing all the time, but again in a very sincere way.
Perhaps you could say, get better and better each time.
Somehow, yeah, or just finding new things to say. And there's an autobiography by him, which there's something he says in there which I love, which is, he says, composers compose and interpreters interpret. And this is to say, composers know how to write something on paper, but for us as interpreters to take a two-dimensional sheet of paper and ink, it's not enough to say, oh, these are the notes and these are the musical instructions. We have to take this and make it multidimensional, and this is what Milstein talks about, and it's always for me a very important reminder.
That is very deep. Yeah. And right after Taipei performance, what's your next step? Or what's our project? Big project after this?
This is actually my last performance for 2023.
I see.
But looking to 2024, I have some projects that I'm really looking forward to. There are two brand new pieces, actually. The first one is a new concerto by a Chinese composer, Shi Wan, who is based in Dallas.
This is going to perform in February.
Yes,
right?
That's right. Yeah, so this is a Dallas Symphony Commission, and it's written for violin, trumpet, and orchestra.
That's a very special combination.
So it's a double concerto, but it's together with the amazing trumpet player Tina Ting Helset, who also is a close friend of mine, and she's such a lyrical player, because you think of trumpet and you imagine fanfares, and you don't necessarily imagine that it can be a delicate instrument, but she makes it very delicate and very song-like, very vocal. So I'm very much looking forward to this. Then the second new piece later on in the year is by composer Arash Safayan, who is German-Persian, and this is a project called Bird Song, and it's music that he is writing with the inspiration of not only bird songs, but also what the bird represents. there's so many thousands of species of birds, and so it's really about diversity, unity, freedom. And this we are recording together with the Deutsche Kammerphilharmonie in Bremen. So very much looking forward to this.
I could get to hear that on YouTube or perhaps.
Yes, maybe we bring
CD,
it to Taiwan.
right?
Yes,
yeah.
I hope so too.
Yeah,
yes.
And what's your best advice for the young musician out there? Try to make the best violinist,
Yes, it's always an important question, I think, because to be any high-level instrumentalist, you have to start at such a young age, and it's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of alone time as you practice in a practice room. So I think my best my advice is to always ask yourself, why am I doing this? Am I doing it because I love it? Because if the answer is yes, well, then you can continue doing it.
Do you also encourage competition for the young musicians?
Oh, competition! I think competitions can be a wonderful way to learn different repertoire and to challenge yourself to be able to play so much repertoire at one time. But I think there's always a danger to competition. There can only be one first prize, one second, so on, and to never take it personally, and to understand that judges are also human beings and they might be looking for something very specific. But I find it's not so nice to rank artists.
Sometimes not fair. Once in a while.
it's yeah. I mean, there's a level of subjectivity in the arts. I mean, even technique is subjective to an extent. So I think to never be discouraged if you do enter a competition, no matter what the results are, even if you're the winner. To always know that it's about the long-term journey. It's not about winning or losing.
Oh, that is wonderful. And thank you so much, Karen, for being here. And
thank you for having me
in the near future.
Thank you so
soon.
much.
Thank you.
It's been lovely. Thank you
for watching.